Hi guys, welcome to the training. My name is Chirag, and as you already know, I'll be the instructor for this training, and together we will be accompanying each other to be on this journey of learning network automation. So let's get started without wasting any time and let's quickly get to know each other. So I'll request you both to introduce yourselves. Tell me about your experience. Tell me about what do you expect from the training, maybe your organization, and anything which you want to discuss. So,
Yeah,
Dhanya,
hi,
let's
sir.
start from you. Okay, yeah, Yogesh, go ahead.
Sure. Okay, anything.
Yeah, hi, Chirag.
Yogesh,
Good morning.
yeah.
Yeah, this is Yogesh, and I have total around 6 years of experience in network domain. I recently joined the entity group. Yeah, Dhanya.
All right, thank you, Yogesh. Yes, Dhanya.
Hi everyone. This is Dhanya. I have a total of 10 years of experience, out of which I have 7 years in a networking field. Currently, I'm working for Aruba Networks, HP. The main reason to join this course is to upgrade my networking skills, to move towards the automation. And yeah, that's why I'm here. Yes.
If you enjoyed the content of the video, don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe to our channel.
All right, perfect. Okay, I'm going to share my other screen. So thank you so much for introducing yourself, and we will get started with the content. So
Yes, please.
for the very first session, today we'll be discussing about the content which we will be covering. Dhanya, can you
Mhm.
please mute yourself? There is some echo from your side. Thanks. All right. So I was saying that for the first class, we will be discussing about the content of the training and how we are going to proceed ahead in these coming days. And we'll also talk about one of the important topic, which is the SDN. So we'll talk about how SDN works. But though I believe since you guys have much experience, you already must have a little understanding of what it is, right? No worries. So we'll talk about that today. We'll keep it short and simple. And from tomorrow, we'll get started with the Python stuff. So let me quickly share my screen and explain you things. Just give me a thumbs up once you guys are able to see my screen.
Yeah, I'm able to see.
All right, great.
Yes.
Okay. So if we talk about the content, I'll just quickly write down a raw outline. There will be some additional topics which we'll be talking about, some small topics. But yeah, this will give you an idea how we are going to proceed ahead. The very first thing we are going to discuss in this CCNA DevNet plus Ansible Basics. The very first thing which we will be talking about is going to be introduction to SDN. So SDN is software defined networking, and we are transitioning to SDN. Most of the organization are already using software defined networking. So we'll talk how it works and what all features are there under the SDN technologies. Then once we are good with discussing SDN, the next step would be understanding the Python fundamentals. So do you guys have any understanding of Python? Do you understand the basics
No,
or
no, I have to start from scratch, Chirag.
all right? What
Yeah,
about you,
same. Yeah,
Yogesh?
same. Yeah.
No issues at all. So basically, uh, regarding Python, we'll be spending a good amount of days on practicing stuff. We'll be talking about whatever is required to get started with the network automation. Obviously, I mean, not the complete Python will be discussed because this is not dedicated to learning Python. But yeah, we'll be covering most of it, which would be enough for getting started with the network automation journey. So we'll be spending around 4 to 5 days to work out with the Python stuff. And I really want you guys to practice those things a lot because the better you understand Python, the better you will be at network automation, right? Because at the end, it is the Python which you have to deal with. So make sure you spend a good amount of time on it. Under Python fundamentals, we'll be talking about various data types like lists, like dictionaries. We'll be talking about conditionings, loops, and many more things. Though I'll be sharing all the links, all the required files, which would be used for performing the labs and doing the Python practice. I'll also be sharing a kind of a workbook which you can use to read about Python and learn Python. So for that, I want you guys to be there on the Telegram group because I prefer sharing details and documents there only. So I'll be putting up things there. Make sure you are a member of group. After we are done with Python, we will get started with the basic network automation. We'll
Sorry,
try to
Chirag, what was that group? Is that from Telegram you'll add us, or how is it?
Yeah, it's a
It's on the
Telegram group.
Telegram?
You must have got the link in the mail only. Okay, I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
see you
that.
are already a
Okay.
member, yeah.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, after discussing Python, once we are good with some basics of Python, we will get started with the basics of network automation. This is the phase where we will actually try to understand how network automation works. We'll try to see how we can optimize the scripts so much that it can do a lot of things for us. It definitely takes a little more time in order to create a script as compared to what we have to do it over CLI. If we do the comparisons, creating the script might take a little more time. But the good part is that now the next time when I have to do the same configs, I don't have to go to CLI and do the stuff again and again. I can directly just click on the play or the run button and that's all. The script will do everything for me, right? So we'll try to understand how it will work with some routers like iOS routers, iOS switches and over the connections like Telnet or SSH. Once we are good with that, then we will get to the most important part of the training, which is model-driven programmability. Now, under model-driven programmability, we talk about various things like netconf. Talk about RESTconf. Their data structuring languages, which is XML, JSON. We talk about these languages. Then we'll talk about YAML, which is the data modeling language. We talk about REST API and some other stuff. Now this part of the training is going to be the most important one and obviously the most interesting one as well. But yeah, before this also you will find the various capabilities and powers of network automation. So it's going to be a fun training. After we are done with model-driven programmability, we will be left with some topics like version control system, then application deployment, then application deployment, security. So basically some theory topics will be left with. And once we are done with all of that, last thing we will be discussing about is going to be Ansible, where we will first talk about Ansible structure, how Ansible actually works, what would be the required things to do the installation of Ansible. Then we will also look into some examples where we will deploy configs using Ansible. Deploying configs using Ansible. So this is how I have planned to move ahead in the coming days. Now I am very much open to feedbacks. So at any point you want to change or you want me to do something, so you can feel free to let me know. In case I go too fast, then also you can ask me to go a little slow. If you think I'm going too slow, you can ask me to speed up a little bit. We are open to that. We can discuss things at any time. You can feel free to ping me or directly just put up your questions in the Telegram group. Me or someone from the team will try to reply you back as soon as possible. So all of these things will be there. So it's just the we can say that I just need one thing, which is the interaction. So I just want you guys to be interactive at any point. You think something is not getting clear, just let me know so that I can explain that again. By this way, both of us will be having a better results at the end of the training, right? So on that note,
Yes.
yes, Tanya.
No, I'm just acknowledging, sorry.
All right, great.
All right, great.
Okay, so let's get started. Let's begin with the very first topic, introduction to SDN, and let's begin with the journey. So, do you guys already know what SDN is or any idea about how SDN works?
Yeah, I have a basic
Yeah.
idea.
Mhm.
The software defined network that we actually manage through a central controller and all the things.
Correct. Have you worked with any of it?
No.
Okay. Tanya, what about you?
Yes, Chirag. So currently, Aruba has got this SD-WAN feature. So we will manage remotely all the network devices, and that makes the management more easy to configure. And I mean, at one point of time, no physical intervention is much needed for the devices unless there is any kind of the device failure or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll just be trying today to understand how the architecture works and how we are just able to manage all these devices through a centralized controller and not by going on to device one by one. So we'll just try to understand that how actually SDN works. So SDN, which stands for software defined networking. So SDN, software defined networking, we can say it is the new way of managing and controlling traffic today in the IT field. Uh, every year it is getting more and more popular. Organizations are transitioning from their traditional networks to SDN networks. Now, there are some reasons. There are some, we can say, some limitations which are there in the traditional networks, and there are some advantages of moving to the SDN networks. So we'll talk about that one by one. But before getting to that part, let's try to understand how actually the communication works in the traditional network by creating a very small setup. So I'll assume that I have two routers. I have a router one, and then which is connected to a switch, connected to some end devices. Then this router 1 is connected to router 2, connected to a switch, connected to some end devices. Let's assume that the network we have here on the LAN of router 1 is 200.10.1.0/24. Then between the routers we have 2.0. Here we have 3.0. The IP which I have here is 1.1. Here I have 2.1. Here I have 2.2. Here I have 3.1. IP on my PC is 1.10, and on this PC it is 3.10. The MAC of PC we are assuming is AA. The MAC of router is double B, double C, and double T. Now my first PC 1.10 wants to make a communication with 3.10. So when I create a packet, I'll be adding information about the source IP I'll be adding information about the destination IP. I'll be adding source MAC and destination MAC, right? So you guys tell me what should be the source IP, destination IP, and the MAC addresses.
The source IP is 1.10.
1.10, okay.
Destination
2.10 will be the destination. Or 3.10, what is that? Is it?
3.10.
3.10.
Yeah.
The source
Source
MAC
MAC.
double A.
Yeah.
And initially, the destination MAC will be, I think, double F, no?
The destination MAC will be
It has to go to its default gateway, right?
right. So it's going to be
Because it's a
double P,
different
right?
network. Yes.
Yeah, perfect. After that, the gateway will do the forwarding and other stuff will happen. So basically, when we first initiate the packet, the source IP is going to be the IP of your PC. Destination you will provide. Source MAC is going to be your MAC address. Then destination MAC will be of your gateway. Now, once the packet is received by the router is going to look into the destination IP address. Will check in the routing table that where exactly this particular destination is. And then depending upon the information, will forward the packet to R2.
Router to. Yeah.
At this point, R2 will do the same stuff and will give the packet to the PC. And we can say the communication from here to here will get completed. Now, behind these, we can say all the actions or behind this all forwarding and understanding of the stuff, we have different planes. So the stuff which we have just discussed, forwarding it from PC to router, then router to router to, this requires some routing protocol, right? We need a routing protocol to make this communication possible. Let's say we have configured EIGRP between them. Now, when we configure EIGRP, the dual algorithm will be executed. Um, FD, RD will be calculated, then successor, feasible successor will be calculated, topology table will be created. So we have all these tasks divided into three planes of the router. So when we talk about these three planes, we have got the very first one as the management plane, second as the control plane,
Data plane.
and data plane. Now the thing is that when we talk about accessing the device, so for example, when I try to connect with a device, what I do is I take a router, I put a console cable and I connect it to a PC. Now on this PC, I need some terminal application like Putty or some other application to take the access of my CLI, right? At this point, I am actually using the management plane. So whenever I am accessing the device, I am provisioning the management plane. After that, once I do the configurations of EIGRP, all the calculations, all the application of dual algorithm or finding out who is successor, who is feasible successor, what is the feasible distance of one route, what is the reported distance of that route, whether there is any other possible route for that destination. All of that stuff will be done by control plane. And once we are good with that, we provide the information of forwarding. So encapsulating the packets according to the forwarding information, according to the MAC addresses, then sending that data on the particular interface. All that stuff is taken care of by the data plane. But the thing is that, yeah, so even if you have taken the router's access through CLI, the command line interface, or through GUI, graphical user interface, at both the times you are using the management planes. Now, there, if you know, there is a device, Cisco's firewall, ASA. Have you heard of it? You must have, right? So,
Yeah.
application security appliance. ASA is the device which can be managed through CLI as well as through GUI. And the controller which we use for configuring it through GUI is ASDM, Application Security Device Manager. So in the case of CLI or in the case of GUI, not talking about talking from the perspective of network automation, we can say the implementation or we can say the execution is going to be a little different. But at the end, we just need the management plane, right? So it is the management plane which will allow us. The way might get a little different. The way might include some additional information in the case of GUI or maybe in the case of CLI. But other than that, it is going to be the management plane only of my ASA, which will help me to connect with the device. So if I try to explain you the same thing through a graphical representation, so we can assume that this box is a kind of control plane of my router. Now inside this control plane, I have some protocols running it. I have OSPF, I have EIGRP, then I have static routes. Now, can you guys tell me what all tables are maintained by OSPF?
The neighbor table.
Neighbor table.
Sorry, Chirag, I'm very bad at routing. I don't know much
No
routing
issues.
protocols.
No worries. So neighbor table is there and the database table is there. In the case of EIGRP, we have got topology table and the neighbor table. Then for static routes, we don't get to see any kind of tables. These routes are already, I mean, these are directly installed into the routing table, right?
Routing table.
So these are all the tables. So very first thing is this is a representation of control plane. So inside my control plane, whenever I do some configuration of any routing protocol, these tables or these we can say details will be managed. Now there's going to be something called as REB, which will be maintained by control plane that stand for routing information base. Inside my REB, all the best routes from the database table will be installed. All the best routes from the topology table will be installed and the static routes will be installed. Now this REB will be synchronized with ARC table to understand what exactly is going to be the physical address for doing the forwarding. That's how my control plane works. After that, the information is further provided to my next plane, which is data plane. Now, as I mentioned earlier, data plane is just there to do forwarding. It doesn't care about how the network was learned or what exactly table I have got this information from. Nothing. So it will just wait for providing the information. I mean, for receiving the information from the control plane. Once it gets that information, it will create something called as web. Web stands for forwarding information base. And we can say this data plane is something which is connected to all the line cards. So if let's say there are two interfaces on my router, then data plane is going to be connected to them. Let's say this is FA0/1. This is FA0/2. Now it will receive packets and will do the forwarding according to forwarding table. Onto these interfaces. So if let's say some packet is coming from here, it will look into the forwarding table, will find out, okay, I'm supposed to send it to this particular interface and we'll do the forwarding on this outgoing interface. That's how it works. So if you guys have any question regarding this part of the discussion, then you can let me know.
No, Chira.
All
It's
right.
fine.
Okay, so everything we have talked about as of now is how we are working with things from the last 30-40 years. We cannot say it is some wrong way of dealing with the networks. We cannot say it is a weak method or something which is not capable of providing us a connectivity. No, nothing like that is there. But the thing is that we can make it a little better. So we'll try to understand the same scenario. We'll try to create scenario here, we'll talk about an example where we will create a data center kind of a thing and some branches connected to that data center. We'll talk about the same way how the network will work in that scenario. So let's assume that this is the ISP network. From ISP, I have taken two internet connections. This is my edge router. This is my edge router. This is my headquarter branch, which I am creating right now. Now, this router is connected with some more devices like, let's say, some firewall. Then there is another firewall. Then there is a layer 3 switch. There is another layer 3 switch. Layer 2 device. This is my server. This is a small setup of my, let's say, headquarter branch. And in order to provide redundancy, I'll also create connections like this. All right. Okay, so this is the setup which I have, and this headquarter is also connected to some branches which are in, let's say, India. And there is one more branch in Dubai. Now the thing is that through my internet connection through VPNs and all, I have a communication between the server and the India and Dubai branch. So over my server, I have used some hypervisor and I have created some virtual machines. I've got VM1 and VM2. Now these virtual machines are hosting some application which are accessible through India and Dubai branch employees. But in order to make them accessible from the India and Dubai branch devices, I need to have some configurations of protocols like BGP. I might need some internal gateway protocol, some IGP like OSPF. I might need some VLANs configurations. I might need some inter-VLAN configurations, maybe some FHRP configurations, maybe some ACL configurations. Then there can be some subnet designing which must have been done. Then there can be other stuff like STP configurations maybe, and there can be some DHCP pools which might be configured. And I mean, there are going to be many more protocols which would be used to make this communication possible internally as well as externally, right? Now, the thing is that all of a sudden I have got this requirement of creating two more virtual machines, the virtual machine number 3 and 4. Now, when I talk about creating virtual machines, so if you have any idea about how much time it takes, so it takes hardly few minutes, right? When we create some VM, it takes a kind of some, depending upon what amount of resources or what kind of deployment you're doing. So let's assume it takes around 15 minutes. Now, after those 15 minutes, making that VM number 3 and VM number 4 available for India and Dubai branch employees will definitely take some hours, right? Because that's not an easy task to do. We have to manipulate so many configurations. We have to change maybe the VLANs, maybe the root bridge of our topology. We might have to change maybe the ACLs. We might have to add in some more rules. We might have to redesign the subnets. We have to do so many things, and not just for the one time, but again and again, right? So in a scenario like this, the chances of making mistake increases, right? We have to do the same set of configurations multiple times and on multiple devices. Now, if any person will do something like this, there is a high probability that they will be making a mistake. And even if we go with the statistics, Cisco says that most of their Cisco tag tickets are generated by the customers who are over the traditional networks. So those who are using traditional networks, they are the one who are creating most of the tickets. Then most of the tickets are getting resolved by just fixing the configurations. So we can say out of 100 in 70 scenarios, it is misconfigurations because of which the network is going down. So we can ignore or we can avoid this kind of a problem or this kind of a trouble through the solution of SDN. Now let's see how SDN will work. So what we do in the case of SDN is we deploy a controller. Now there's going to be a controller, and this controller will be connected to all the edge devices. All I need to do is I need to connect a PC to my controller, and directly from my PC, I can manage all the branches. I can manage the headquarter. I can manage the Dubai branch. I can manage the India branch. How is that possible? That's possible because when I deploy a controller, I take the excess of control plane from the device and I put it with myself at the controller. Depending upon what vendor you are selecting, this controller can be a hardware device, and at times it can be a virtual machine also. Now, once you have deployed the controller, you have taken the excess of control planes of all the devices. Now, if you have the logic of your device, you can manage it directly through controller. All you need to do is you need to tell the device about the forwarding information which they are supposed to use for doing the forwarding at data plane. That's it. Now I don't have to go on to devices one by one and do the stuff. All I need is I need to connect to the controller, which is now the control plane, and the data plane is still with the devices, we can say. So we'll be just providing them the forwarding information. They will just do the forwarding on the basis of whatever information will be provided by my controller. Then the communication which is going to happen between the user and the controller is supported by API. API stands for Application Programmability Interface. When we talk about the communication between the user and the controller, that particular interface is called as northbound interface. When we talk about the communication between the controller and the device, that interface will be termed as southbound interface. So for making the communication from user to controller, we have got some different APIs. Then making the communication from controller to device, we have got some different APIs. Now talking about CLI or GUI, which we use for accessing the device. So that's, we can say, a kind of northbound interface API, which we use for interacting with the device.
So, Chirag, in a way, we can say using SDN, we are taking care of the control plane and sorry, management plane and also the control plane,
Correct,
right? And the data plane will be still within the devices where the traffic will be
exactly,
between the devices. However, these two planes will be taken care using SDN.
right.
Okay.
Now,
And can you just once again tell about northbound, southbound interface again?
yeah. So southbound interface is, we can say, the one which we have between the SDN controller and the network device. So that's going to be here. Now,
Yeah.
here we have got some, we can say, options like CLI. We have got open flow, if you might have heard of. Then when
Yeah.
we talk about northbound, the one which we use to interact with the controller, we have got various options like the Java, the Python, some third-party applications. All these are northbound interface API.
Okay.
So when we talk about these controllers now, let's discuss them also a little bit. When we talk about these controllers, depending upon your setup, you will have different kinds of controllers. So if I talk about SDN is the parent technology, right? Under that SDN technology, we have got various solutions like SD-WAN, we have got SD-Access, and we have got ACI. So SD-WAN, we manage it through the controller called vManager, right? Here we have got DNAC. Then here we have got APIC as the controller. Now the thing is that it depends upon the controller, or it depends upon the solution which you have taken, that how the access will be taken, whether it's going to be 100% of the control plane or some amount of control plane. Totally depends upon the vendor and the kind of solution you have taken. Talking about these ones which I have mentioned here. So if we go specific with vManager, it will just take the access of the edge devices. If we go in the details of DNAC, DNAC is used for managing the LANs as well. So LANs will be taken care of through DNAC. Similarly, APIC will be used for managing all the ACIs of data centers. That's how it works. And now the programmability and automation is something which we use here between this controller and the device, which we'll be using and will be understanding later on with some labs. This is what we are going to learn, and this is how SDN works. So if you guys have got any questions regarding this, then please feel free to ask it.
Good, Chirag.
So Chirag, the northbound, the communication means.
Between the user and the controller. So that will be done through some third-party application or through programming languages, Python, Java, all these stuff.
Okay, okay, got it.
Yeah. All right. Now we can say the next thing which we have to do, or we have to discuss, is the Python installation. So I'll quickly show you how you are supposed to install the Python. And
Okay.
from tomorrow, we'll get started with learning Python. Okay, I'm sharing my other screen. Let me know once you are able to see it.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, Firefox is visual.
All right, great. So in order to do the installation, you first of all have to go to python.org. So search for python.org. Once you are here, just simply go to the downloads. And if you have Windows, just select it from here. Otherwise, select the appropriate operating system. Click on the particular operating system or click on the version. It will begin the installation, as simple as that. Once the installation is done, open the installer, say next, next. I mean, just one thing which you have to take care of is this: add python.exe to path. You have to make sure that you check this particular option, because by default, it's not going to be checked. So just make sure you click on this and then begin with the option of install now. Just simply do the installation, say yes, say next, whatever is the default settings, go ahead with that. The only thing you have to do is you have to add Python to the path. Once the installation is done, the next thing you have to do is you have to open the command prompt. Okay, let's allow it a little more time to do the installation. Okay, once the installation is done, close this, open command prompt. I'll open it here. Under your command prompt, you have to run Python, enter. When you say Python and hit enter, it will let you inside the, we can say, interpreter. And here you can execute your Python commands. This is something which we will discuss tomorrow as well in detail, and we'll talk about the versions, their capabilities and other stuff. But yeah, in order to test whether the installation was done successfully or not, go to your command prompt, say Python. If you get something like this, that means the installation was done successfully. Now, in order to exit this, you have to say exit and then empty parenthesis like this, hit enter, you will be back into your command prompt. So try this out. Once you are done with the installation, we are good to wrap up. So just let me know that you are done, or maybe you get any question or difficulty, you can share that. I'll just wait for you.
Oh, yeah, it's done.
1 second, Chirag, I'm doing it.
Sure, no worries, take your time.
Chirag, I have a question, please.
Yes, Web. Hi.
Hi, Chirag. Chirag, I think in later will we be learning how to parse JSON output?
Yes, we will be.
Okay, sure.
So that will
Because
be covered under model-driven programmability. We'll talk
okay,
about JSON and we'll discuss how to write codes and stuff in JSON format. So we'll be
okay,
exploring it a little bit.
okay. Actually, Chirag, I work with Meraki devices in which the API call returns on JSON format. So I need like some specific data from that format, and then like maybe put it at another API.
Okay.
Yes, Chirag, it's done.
All right, fine, guys. So if you have got any questions, then you can let me know. Otherwise, we are good to wrap up the session.
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's fine. Nothing from mine.
Okay, what about you, Above? I think you joined late, right?
Yes, Chirag, I joined like half an hour late, so I was just
Okay.
listening. Yes,
Yeah, so I was saying that just go through the recording in case you get any question or doubt. You can let me know over the Telegram and we can discuss that.
okay. So will the recording be shared today itself, right?
Yes, most probably today itself. So probably after 2, 3 hours, you will be receiving the mail of the way how you can access the recordings. And
Mm-hmm.
once it is uploaded, you can access it from the portal there directly.
Sure.
Hi, Carlos.
Hi guys.
Hi. So actually, we were just about to wrap up. We have discussed about whatever we will be covering in the training. And also we have discussed the SDN. So for you also, I would suggest you to just go through the recording today and then let's get started from tomorrow with the Python. Okay.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the session. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Have a good day.